You'll give me 5 sons and never work again." The giant cowboy promised the barefoot waitress the small town of Willow Creek lay quietly under the afternoon sun. Dust floated slowly along the dirt roads, and the air smelled faintly of dry grass and coffee from the diner at the edge of town. Life here moved slowly, in a rhythm that people had grown used to. Children ran barefoot along the main street. Dogs barked lazily in yards, and the bell over the diner door jingled whenever someone entered or left. The town was simple, honest, and sometimes harsh. Those who lived here knew how to work hard, and they knew how to survive even when life seemed empty. At the little diner, a young waitress moved between tables, carrying plates with ease and a calm smile. She was barefoot, as she often preferred, feeling the warmth of the worn wooden floors under her feet. Her hair fell in loose strands around her face, and her hands were calloused from years of work, but her eyes carried a quiet spark. She had learned early that life did not always give what people wanted, but she kept hope tucked away in her heart, even if only in small, hidden ways. She served coffee with a steady hand, wiped tables with a practiced motion, and greeted the regulars with a voice that was soft but clear. Many days passed without anything remarkable. People came and went, sat in their favorite booths, told the same stories they had told 100 times, and left. But on this particular afternoon the air seemed to shift slightly when a tall figure appeared on the edge of town. He was a man unlike anyone the waitress had seen before. A giant cowboy, wide-shouldered and strong, rode slowly along the dusty road, the sun glinting off his hat and boots. His horse moved steadily, as if it too were aware of the calm certainty about the rider. People turned their heads, curious and quiet, watching him pass. When he entered the diner, the bell jingled gently. He did not rush to a table, nor did he shout for attention. Instead, he walked with calm steps, his eyes scanning the room, and finally settled in a corner booth. He removed his hat politely, shaking dust from the brim, and placed it carefully beside him. The waitress felt her heart flutter unexpectedly. There was something about him that felt different, not threatening, but commanding, like a man who had seen much of the world and yet still carried kindness in his eyes. She approached with a notepad in her hand, offering her usual greeting. "Afternoon." "What can I get for you?" she asked, trying to keep her voice steady. He looked up, his face strong and open. "Just coffee," he said, his voice deep and steady. "Black, please." She nodded, noticing the way he sat so straight, with an ease that came from knowing himself well. Something in his calm confidence made her feel small, yet oddly safe. She poured the coffee, feeling a small thrill at the simplicity of the task, and placed it gently on the table in front of him. "Thank you," he said, meeting her gaze. There was no hurry in his words, no demand, just simple gratitude. She smiled, and for a moment the world outside the diner seemed to disappear. The clatter of dishes, the low hum of conversation, and the slow ticking of the wall clock faded into the background. She felt as if she were seeing him not just as a stranger, but as someone who carried stories hidden beneath his calm exterior. He didn't stay long that first day, but even as he left, she could not shake the feeling that something important had begun. His presence lingered, like a gentle wind that whispered of change. Days passed, but she found herself thinking of him more than she expected. Who was this giant cowboy? Where had he come from? Why did his eyes seem so certain, as if he already knew the answers to questions she hadn't yet asked? The next afternoon, he returned. This time he didn't sit in the corner booth. He chose a seat near the window, letting the sunlight fall across his face, highlighting the rough lines that hinted at years of work and life lived outdoors. He ordered the same meal, the same coffee, and the waitress found herself lingering a moment longer at the table than usual. Slowly, he began to speak, though carefully, with pauses that made each word seem deliberate. "I have a ranch," he said, almost in passing. "It's lonely sometimes, even when the work is good." "I suppose everyone feels that way now and then." She nodded, unsure why she felt compelled to respond. "I know the feeling. I work long days here, and sometimes it feels like the hours never end. It's quiet when the diner is empty." He smiled slightly, as if understanding more than she had said. "Quiet can be good, But sometimes it makes you wish for more. A family, a home, a place where things grow, not just survive. She found herself looking down at the floor, thinking of her own small hopes. A family? A home? These were dreams she had tucked away, almost afraid to speak them aloud. Yet here was a man, a stranger, giving voice to the very thoughts she had kept secret. As days turned into weeks, he returned again and again. Their conversations grew longer, though always gentle and careful. He told stories of the ranch, of long days under the sun, of the horses and the fences, and the fields stretching beyond the eye. He spoke with honesty, without bragging or pride, and in his words, she felt a simple kind of truth. In return, she told small pieces of her life, her family long gone, her hopes for a life where work was not endless, where she could feel safe and valued. One evening, as the sun dipped low in the sky and painted the clouds with orange and pink, he spoke words that stayed with her for days. "I could promise you a life different from this," he said quietly. "A life where you don't have to worry about endless work, where there's room for laughter and children, and nights without the ache of tired feet. I could promise you that, if you were willing to take a chance." She laughed nervously, shaking her head. "That's a big promise."
"I don't even know if I could believe it." "Then watch," he said simply.
"Time will show you what is possible." From that moment her life began to change, though not in obvious ways. She noticed herself smiling more often when he arrived. She felt lighter after their conversations, as if the weight of the diner and the endless hours of work had loosened slightly. She began to imagine quietly what it would feel like to step beyond the walls of the diner and the town she had always known. The townspeople noticed little differences too. The way she held herself, the glimmer of hope in her eyes, the new patience and quiet confidence in her movements. Some whispered curious and wary about the giant cowboy who had come to town, but she didn't mind the whispers. She was learning to focus on her own heart, not the opinions of others. By the time the first month passed, it was clear that their connection had grown into something deeper than simple acquaintance. There was respect, there was trust, and there was a quiet understanding between them. Every time he left, she felt the emptiness of the diner more acutely. Every time he returned, the world seemed brighter, the hours lighter, and the future more possible. She knew that life on the ranch would be different. She knew that leaving behind the diner, the town, and the familiar rhythm would be hard. But there was a pull she could not ignore, a promise of change, of safety, of a life where she could finally rest. And so, as the sun set over Willow Creek, painting the dusty streets in gold, she realized that her world was about to shift. The giant cowboy had come not only to town but into her life, carrying with him a chance she had never dared to hope for before. The days after their first evening under the stars passed slowly but with a quiet change in the air. The barefoot waitress noticed the giant cowboy more often than she expected, though sometimes he did not speak much, simply observing the town and the people around him. There was a calm strength about him that made even the busiest moments seem less heavy. His presence had become familiar, comforting, like a steady heartbeat that reminded her life could be more than endless chores and tired smiles. Each morning she arrived at the diner earlier than usual, cleaning and arranging tables with a new energy she hadn't felt before. The town itself seemed brighter, though the dusty streets and wooden signs had not changed at all. She realized that it was not the town that had shifted, but her view of it. The cowboy's words from the last evening lingered in her mind. A life where she didn't have to work endlessly, where laughter and family could exist alongside hard work, where nights were calm and full, not lonely and quiet. When he returned that afternoon, the diner seemed to come alive in her eyes. She watched him enter, the bell above the door jingling lightly, and her heart quickened slightly. He tipped his hat to her with a gentle smile, and she felt the smallest warmth spread through her chest. There was no need for words yet. Even his quiet presence spoke volumes. He sat at the same table near the window, and she approached with his usual coffee. "Black, please," he said, as if it were the first day, yet now it carried a note of familiarity. She poured the coffee and set it down, letting her hand linger briefly on the warm mug, feeling the smooth surface beneath her fingers. "You seem different today," he said softly, noticing the change in her. "More alive," somehow. She smiled, a little embarrassed. I suppose I feel lighter. Things don't feel so heavy as they used to. That is good, he said simply. Life can be hard, but sometimes it's not about carrying less weight. Sometimes it's about finding someone who helps you bear it. She looked down at the floor, unsure how to respond. His words struck a chord deep within her, reminding her of dreams she had kept hidden for years. Dreams of a home, of family, of days filled with laughter, and nights where she could rest without worry. She had thought these dreams impossible, like stars too far to reach, but he made them seem attainable. Days turned into weeks, and their conversations grew longer. He shared stories of the ranch he had built, of the long hours in the sun, the fences repaired, the horses trained, and the quiet satisfaction of work done well. His words painted a picture of life that was honest and grounded, not easy, but full of purpose. She listened carefully, her own thoughts wandering to what it would be like to live in that world. She told him about her life in the diner, the hours that never ended, the weight of bills and chores that seemed never to lighten. She spoke of moments when hope felt far away, when the world seemed too heavy for one person to carry. And he listened, not with judgment, but with attention, as if each word mattered, as if her story was a treasure he would hold carefully. One evening, as the sun dipped low and painted the sky with gold and pink, he suggested they step outside. The town streets were quiet, and the light fell softly across the wooden buildings. He led her to the edge of the town, where the fields stretched wide and the wind carried the faint scent of grass and earth. I want to show you something, he said, his voice low and calm. Something that might help you see what I mean. They walked together, the ground soft beneath their feet. For a while they said nothing, simply enjoying the quiet of the open land. The cowboy stopped near a small hill and gestured toward the horizon. See that? He asked. That is the edge of my world. Beyond this, there is more land, more life. And one day it could be yours too. She looked out over the fields, her eyes wide. The ranch, the open space, the idea of building a life beyond the diner, it all felt both terrifying and exciting. I don't know if I could do it, she admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. You don't have to decide now, he said gently. But think of what life could be. Think of what you truly want, not what others expect of you. That night she returned home with her mind full of questions and possibilities. She thought about the cowboy, about the ranch, about the life she had always longed for. She realized that change scared her, yes, but the thought of staying in the diner, in the same routine, felt heavier than any risk. For the first time in years, she allowed herself to dream openly, to imagine a life where work did not dominate every moment, where her efforts built something lasting, where her heart could rest at night without worry. The following week, he returned again. This time, he did not sit quietly. He leaned forward across the table, his eyes steady. I can promise you something, he said. Not today, not tomorrow, but one day. I can promise a life where your work does not consume you, where your hands and heart are free to give to family, to laughter, to days that matter, if you are willing to take the chance. She looked at him, startled. Such a promise felt impossible, almost reckless. Yet the honesty in his voice, the steadiness in his gaze, made it feel real. And what would you want in return? She asked cautiously. Only trust, he said simply. Only your belief that life can be different and the courage to step toward it. For days she thought about his words. She watched him help the townspeople, seeing how he treated everyone with respect and care. She saw the strength in his actions, the quiet honesty in his words. Slowly she began to believe that his promise was not an empty one, that perhaps life could change in ways she had never allowed herself to imagine. The townspeople noticed the changes in her too. She carried herself differently, with more confidence, with a sense of hope that had been missing. She smiled more freely, laughed more openly, and even the children in the diner seemed drawn to her warmth. Some whispered about the giant cowboy and the barefoot waitress, but she did not mind. Their opinions no longer defined her world. One afternoon, he invited her to see the ranch in person. The thought terrified her, but also thrilled her. Could she really leave the life she had known for so long? Could she step into a world full of unknowns, trusting only the promise of this man who had slowly become more than a stranger? She agreed, quietly, carefully, with a mixture of fear and excitement. The day they left Willow Creek, the townspeople watched them go with curiosity and concern. She felt a strange mixture of sadness and anticipation as the diner disappeared behind them, replaced by open fields and endless possibilities. The ride to the ranch was long and quiet, giving her time to think about her choices. She realized that her life had been full of small sacrifices, of work without end, of hopes tucked away and ignored. Now she had a chance to build something larger, something she could call her own. The cowboy rode beside her, steady and patient, never rushing, letting her take each thought and fear at her own pace. By the time the sun began to set, the ranch appeared on the horizon. It was wide and open, with fields stretching to meet the sky, a sturdy house in the distance, and fences lined neatly in rows. Horses grazed quietly in the pastures, and the air smelled fresh and alive. She felt her chest fill with wonder and fear, the two emotions twisting together in an unfamiliar but welcome way. The cowboy stopped the horse gently. "This is where it begins," he said quietly. "Your life can be different here. You don't have to work endlessly. You don't have to carry the weight of the world alone. All I ask is that you take the first step with me." She dismounted, feeling the soft ground beneath her feet. The air smelled of possibility, of growth, of a life waiting to be shaped. For the first time, she truly believed that her dreams could become real, that she could have the family, the home, and the rest she had always imagined. That night, as they sat by a small fire outside the house, she thought of Willow Creek, of the diner, of the quiet life she had left behind, and for the first time she felt no regret. She had stepped into the unknown, guided by trust, courage, and a promise that seemed too good to be true but felt real in every action, every word, every calm smile of the giant cowboy by her side. The journey ahead would not be easy. There would be work, there would be challenges, and there would be moments of doubt. But for the first time she felt that the life she wanted, a life of family, of laughter, of rest, was within reach. The promise had taken root in her heart, growing slowly, quietly, like a seed in fertile soil. And she knew that with courage and trust, it would bloom into something beautiful, something lasting, something real. The ranch stretched wide under the bright morning sun, golden fields meeting the horizon in a perfect line. The barefoot waitress stood at the edge of the pasture, feeling the soft earth beneath her feet and the wind brushing lightly across her face. The air smelled of grass, horses, and freedom, a sharp contrast to the dusty streets and crowded diner she had left behind. For a moment, she closed her eyes, taking it all in. She was far from Willow Creek now, far from the routine that had defined her life for so long. And yet she felt a sense of calm settle deep in her chest, as if she had found a place she was meant to be. The giant cowboy rode slowly toward her, the sound of hooves gentle against the soft ground. He stopped a few feet away, removing his hat with a respectful tilt of his head. "Ready for the first day?" he asked, his voice steady, carrying the same calm strength that had drawn her to him in the first place. She nodded, though her stomach twisted with a mixture of excitement and nerves. "I think so," she said. "I'm ready to try." He smiled, and it was a small, quiet smile, full of encouragement rather than expectation. "Good. We start slow. Life here is not about rushing. It's about learning, growing, and building something real, step by step, day by day." The first hours were simple tasks, yet they felt monumental to her. She learned to carry water to the horses without spilling a drop, to feed them with care, and to recognize each one by its name and temperament. The cowboy worked alongside her, demonstrating patiently, showing how to hold herself, how to move with confidence, and how to respect the animals under their care. She stumbled at times, her hands aching, her muscles sore in ways she hadn't expected, but he never scolded or criticized. Instead, he offered quiet guidance, steadying her when needed, and praising her when she succeeded. By midday, they took a break beneath the shade of a large oak tree. The The sun beat down on the fields, but the shade offered relief, and a small breeze carried the faint scent of wildflowers. The waitress sat on the grass, wiping sweat from her forehead, and the cowboy handed her a bottle of water. "You're doing well," he said simply. "I know it's hard. You're learning a lot in a short time, but every day will get easier." She smiled, grateful for his encouragement. "It is hard," she admitted. "But it's different than the diner. It feels right somehow. Even if I'm tired, I feel like I'm learning, not just surviving." "That is the difference," he said. "Survival is simple. Life is harder, but it is also fuller. Here, you see the results of your work. You see progress, growth, and sometimes even joy." They spent the afternoon repairing fences along the northern field. She worked steadily, hammering posts into the ground, tying rails carefully, and learning to trust her strength. The cowboy moved beside her, carrying heavy wood, showing her how to balance effort with care. She noticed how he watched her closely, not with judgment, but with attention, noticing every small improvement, every effort made. By evening, the ranch looked different to her eyes. Lines were straight, fences strong, and the horses moved freely within the fields. She felt a deep satisfaction she had never known in the diner. Here, work produced visible results, and her hands, though tired, carried a sense of purpose rather than endless obligation. That night, after a simple meal of bread, soup, and fresh fruit, they sat outside on the porch of the ranch house. The sky was clear, full of stars, and the wind carried the soft whisper of leaves. For the first time in weeks, she allowed herself to relax completely, her bare feet dangling over the edge of the wooden porch. "You've done well today," the cowboy said, sitting beside her. "More than I expected for the first day." She laughed softly, brushing a strand of hair behind her ear. "I never thought I could do something like this." "It's harder than I imagined, but somehow it feels good. I feel useful, I guess." "You are useful," he said. "More than that, you're capable of so much. You just didn't know it until now." She looked out over the fields, feeling the vastness of the ranch, the weight of her old life behind her, and the possibilities ahead. She realized that taking this step, leaving the diner, leaving Willow Creek, was not just a change of place. It was a change of life. She was no longer defined by exhaustion and routine. She was building something, learning something, and discovering strength she hadn't known she possessed. The days that followed became a rhythm of learning and growth. She rose early each morning, her bare feet touching the cool ground, and worked alongside the cowboy. She learned to feed the chickens, collect eggs, mend fences, care for the animals, and plant the small garden that provided fresh vegetables for the house. Each task carried its own challenges, but each success filled her with quiet pride. She also learned patience. Some days the horses resisted, or the fence posts refused to fit, or the garden demanded more care than she could give. On those days, the cowboy would simply stand beside her, offering guidance and calm words. "Take your time," he would say. "Progress is built slowly, but it lasts." Through these long days, she began to see the cowboy differently. He was strong, yes, but he was also gentle, patient, and respectful. He did not demand more than she could give, and he recognized her efforts at every step. Slowly, trust grew between them, built not on promises alone but on action, on shared work, and on the quiet understanding that each was learning from the other. One afternoon, after a morning spent tending to the fields, they stopped near the edge of the river that ran through the ranch. The water was clear, and the sunlight danced across the ripples. She watched the current, thinking about how life moved forward, carrying everything along, shaping the land and the soul alike. "Do you ever think about the life you left behind?" the cowboy asked gently. She nodded slowly. "Sometimes. I wonder if I made the right choice. But then I look at this place, at what we've done, and I know I had to come. I couldn't stay in the diner, watching life pass by." "You made the right choice," he said. "Life is not about staying safe. It's about moving forward, even when it's uncertain, even when it's scary. You've taken the first step, and that is the hardest one." Evening came, painting the sky with shades of orange and purple. They returned to the house, tired but fulfilled. The fire burned in the hearth, casting a warm glow across the wooden walls. They ate a simple dinner, the quiet comfort of routine filling the space between them. For the first time, she felt a sense of belonging she had never known in Willow Creek. Here, work and rest existed together, effort and reward intertwined, and she could feel herself growing into the person she had always wanted to be. As she lay in bed that night, she thought about the cowboy, about the promise he had made, and about the life she was building alongside him. She realized that it was not the promise alone that mattered, but the way he had shown her, through action and care, that life could be different. She no longer felt trapped in routine. She felt empowered to shape her own path. Days turned into weeks, and the ranch became her new world. She learned to ride the horses, to navigate the fields, and to care for the land as if it were a living thing. The cowboy continued to guide her, but he also let her make decisions, letting her grow in confidence and skill. She began to understand that family, work, and trust were all built slowly, through shared effort, patience, and honesty. Through all of this, their bond deepened. They shared small moments of laughter, quiet conversations under the stars, and the satisfaction of work done well. She noticed that she no longer feared the future, for she had taken the first steps toward it, and he noticed her growing strength, her courage, and the way her presence added warmth and life to the ranch. One night as the moon cast silver light across the fields, he spoke again. "Do you believe now?" he asked quietly.
"Believe what?" she replied, curious. "That a life different from the one you left can exist, and that it can be yours," he said, his voice calm, steady, and full of certainty.
She looked at him, seeing the honesty and patience in his eyes. She thought about the work, the long days, the small victories, and the growing sense of home. "I think I know it now," she said. "I see it. I feel it. And I want it." He smiled, a quiet, content smile. "Then it begins. Step by step, day by day, we build it together." For the first time in her life, she felt certain that she was not alone, that her efforts mattered, and that the promise he had made was not just words. It was real, living, and growing with every sunrise over the fields. And so, life on the ranch continued, filled with work, laughter, small victories, and growing trust. The Barefoot waitress learned not just how to tend to the land, but how to tend to her own heart. She discovered strength, courage, and hope, all nurtured by the steady presence of the giant cowboy who had promised her more than words. He had shown her what a life of care, family, and trust could be. The ranch had settled into a rhythm, and the Barefoot waitress found herself waking each morning with a sense of purpose she had never known before. The sun rose slowly over the horizon, painting the fields with soft gold, and the air carried the fresh scent of grass, soil, and horses. She stepped outside barefoot, feeling the cool morning earth beneath her feet, and took a deep breath, letting the calm settle into her chest. Each day brought tasks, challenges, and small victories, and with every moment she felt her confidence grow. The giant cowboy rode beside her, guiding and teaching, but always letting her try first. They worked in tandem, moving as a team, learning each other's strengths and weaknesses. She learned to mend fences, tend the garden, care for the livestock, and manage the chores of a large ranch. Every task was difficult in its own way, yet she found satisfaction in seeing the results of her effort. Broken fences became strong boundaries, untamed fields became orderly pastures, and small seeds in the garden grew into healthy plants. One afternoon, as they worked near the edge of the northern field, the cowboy paused and looked at her. "You've grown stronger," he said, his voice calm but proud, not just in body but in spirit. "You handle yourself well. You're learning what it means to care for something and to build something lasting." She wiped sweat from her forehead and smiled. "I feel different too. I used to think life was just about surviving, about getting through each day. But now, it feels like I'm creating something that matters, something that will last." He nodded. "That is what life gives you when you are willing to work for it, to care for it, and to trust in yourself. You've taken the first steps toward a life you deserve, and each day you grow closer to it. As the days passed, their bond deepened. They shared small moments that carried more meaning than words could express. Simple acts like sharing a meal after a long day or laughing together when a horse misbehaved became part of the foundation of their relationship. Trust, patience, and respect grew between them, forming the framework for the life they were slowly building together. One evening, the cowboy suggested they take a walk beyond the pastures toward a small hill that overlooked the ranch. The sun was low, casting long shadows across the fields, and the sky was painted in shades of orange and pink. She followed him, her bare feet brushing against the grass, feeling the cool evening air. "Do you see this?" he asked, gesturing to the fields stretching out before them. "This is what we've built together. The land, the animals, the work, it's all part of something larger. And this is just the beginning."
She looked at the wide expanse, feeling a mix of awe and gratitude. "It's beautiful," she said softly. "I never imagined life could be like this."
"I never imagined I could feel at home." He smiled, a quiet, content smile. Home isn't just a place, it's the people, the work, and the love you put into it. You are part of this home now, and I am glad of it. Life continued in this steady rhythm. They faced challenges, of course. Storms came, fences broke, and animals sometimes fell sick. There were long days when muscles ached and frustration threatened to overwhelm patience. But through it all, they worked together, learning to support each other, to share the burdens, and to celebrate the small victories. Each challenge overcame, strengthened their bond, and deepened the sense of family that was forming. Slowly, the barefoot waitress began to see herself differently. She recognized her own strength, resilience, and capability. She no longer felt defined by past hardships or the long hours of work that had once consumed her life. She saw herself as someone capable of building, caring, and nurturing a life filled with purpose and love. And the giant cowboy, through his patient guidance and quiet support, helped her realize that she was not just strong alone, but that together they could accomplish even more. One day, as they rested after a long morning tending to the animals, the cowboy spoke quietly. "Have you thought about the future?" he asked. She looked out at the fields, thinking of the home they had begun to build together. "I have," she admitted. "I think about it a lot now. About having a family, about laughter filling the house, about children running through the fields. I think I want that life." He nodded, his eyes soft and thoughtful. "It can be yours," he said. "All of it. You don't have to carry the weight of the world alone anymore. You have a choice, and you have a home here. You've earned it through work, patience, and heart." Her chest filled with warmth. The promise he had made weeks ago, about a life without endless work, about a home filled with laughter and family, felt closer than ever. It was no longer just words. It was real, living in every fence repaired, every seed planted, every animal cared for, and every quiet evening shared on the porch. The first signs of family life began to appear in small, gentle ways. They prepared the house together, fixing the rooms, arranging the furniture, and planning spaces where laughter and life could grow. They discussed the possibility of children one day, of raising a family in the life they were creating. Each conversation carried hope and a sense of responsibility as they imagined a future filled with love, care, and shared work. As the months passed, the ranch began to feel fully alive. Animals thrived under their care. The fields produced healthy crops, and the home felt warm and welcoming. The barefoot waitress moved with confidence through this new world, her hands skilled, her mind alert, and her heart open. She began to see that the life they were building together was more than just survival. It was creation, family, and love in its purest form. One evening, after a day spent in the garden, she sat on the porch watching the sunset. The sky was ablaze with color, and the air was filled with the soft sounds of the ranch settling for the night. The cowboy joined her, handing her a cup of warm tea. "You've grown so much," he said softly. "Not just in skill but in heart. You've taken this life and made it your own. That is something to be proud of." She smiled, feeling a deep sense of satisfaction. I never imagined I could do this. I never imagined I could feel so calm, complete. You are complete, he said. And together we can make the life you've dreamed of real. Step by step, day by day, we build it. And soon, it will be more than just dreams. It will be home. It will be family. And it will be everything you hoped for. That night, as they lay under the stars, she thought about the journey she had taken. From the dusty diner in Willow Creek to the wide-open fields of the ranch, she had faced fear, uncertainty, and doubt. She had worked hard, learned, and grown stronger. And now, with the cowboy by her side, she could see a future filled with love, laughter, and family. A life that had once seemed impossible, but now felt inevitable. The promise he had made so long ago, about giving her a life free from endless work, about family, about home, was no longer a distant idea. It was becoming real, built on patience, effort, and trust, and she knew that whatever challenges lay ahead, they would face them together, with courage and care, creating a legacy of strength, hope, and love that would last far beyond themselves. And so, the days continued, filled with work, laughter, and quiet moments of connection. The ranch became a place of growth, not just for the land and animals, but for the hearts of the barefoot waitress and the giant cowboy. Together, they learned that life was not about easy paths or simple solutions, but about shared effort, patience, and the courage to follow promises made with heart. With every sunrise, they moved closer to the life they had dreamed of, and with every sunset, they rested in the knowledge that the home they were building was strong, true, and full of love. The barefoot waitress realized that she had found more than a promise. She had found a life, a home, and a partner who believed in her, trusted her, and would walk beside her through all the days to come. The seasons passed slowly across the ranch, each bringing its own rhythm of work and quiet celebration. The fields changed from green to gold and back to green. The animals grew strong and healthy, and the house, once empty, was now filled with warmth. The barefoot waitress had grown into her life on the ranch in ways she could not have imagined. She moved with confidence, her hands skilled, her mind alert, and her heart open to the possibilities that each day brought. The giant cowboy continued to be her steady companion, guiding when needed, stepping back when she wanted to try on her own, and always offering quiet encouragement. They had learned to communicate without words, to sense each other's thoughts and feelings, and to work together seamlessly. The ranch, once a wide-open field of potential, had become a home in every sense of the word. One morning, as the sun rose over the eastern hills, the cowboy suggested they visit the pasture where they had first started working together. The fields were full of life now, horses grazing, chickens pecking, and the garden flourishing with vegetables and flowers. She looked around, feeling a sense of awe at how far they had come. Every fence repaired, every plant nurtured, every task completed had built this life step by step. "Look at this," he said, his voice quiet and full of pride. "This is what we've created together. Every day, a little stronger, a little fuller, a little closer to the life we dreamed of." She smiled, feeling warmth spread through her chest. "I never imagined it could be like this. I never imagined a life where work and happiness could exist together, where family could grow and love could be real in every action." "It is real," he said simply, "because we built it." Together, and build they did. Slowly, deliberately, and with care, the life they had imagined began to take shape. They planned for children, preparing the home with spaces filled with light and safety. They planted more flowers and vegetables, creating a place of beauty and sustenance. They repaired old structures, built new ones, and nurtured every part of the land as if it were alive, knowing that a home was not just a building but the heart poured into it. Months later, the first child arrived. The ranch, already full of life, became even warmer with the sounds of laughter and small footsteps. The barefoot waitress held the baby in her arms, feeling a mix of love, pride, and awe. The giant cowboy stood beside her, his hand resting gently on her shoulder, his eyes full of quiet joy. "We did this together," he said softly. "We built a life worth living, and now we have someone to share it with." She nodded, tears in her eyes. I never thought I could feel this complete. I never imagined that the life I dreamed of could be real. But it is. And it is beautiful. The days became full of new routines. Feeding the animals, tending the fields, and caring for the child created a rhythm that was challenging but rewarding. Each night after the baby was asleep, they would sit together on the porch, watching the stars, and talking quietly about the future. They shared dreams of a growing family, of more children running across the fields, and of the ranch continuing to thrive as a home for generations. Time moved forward, as it always does, and their family grew. The Barefoot waitress found joy in every moment, reading stories to the children, teaching them about the animals and the land, and watching them laugh as they played in the sun. The giant cowboy watched too, proud of the home they had built and the life they had created. Their bond deepened further with every shared task, every quiet conversation, and every challenge overcome together. Evenings were filled with peace and reflection. After long days, they would sit outside, hands intertwined, listening to the sounds of the ranch settling into the night. The wind through the fields, the soft calls of animals, and the gentle hush of the earth created a calmness they both cherished. It was in these moments that they fully understood the promise that had begun it all, a promise of a life free from endless toil, a life filled with family, love, and hope. They also faced challenges, as every life does. Storms tested the fences, animals fell ill, and the demands of raising children and tending the ranch sometimes felt overwhelming. But they faced these challenges together, each supporting the other, learning patience, resilience, and the quiet power of shared effort. Every problem solved, every task completed, strengthened the bond between them and reaffirmed the life they had chosen to build. The Barefoot waitress often reflected on the journey that had brought her here, from the diner in Willow Creek to the wide fields of the ranch. She remembered the long hours of work, the exhaustion, and the dreams she had kept hidden. She thought of the first day she had met the giant cowboy, of the promise he had made under the stars, and of the cautious hope that had grown into a deep trust. Now, as she watched her children play in the fields, she knew that trust had been rewarded beyond anything she had imagined. One quiet evening, as the sun set and painted the sky in shades of pink and gold, they stood together on the porch, watching their home. Their children ran through the yard, their laughter carrying on the wind. The horses grazed peacefully, and the garden bloomed with life. Everything around them was a testament to the work, love, and care they had poured into this life. The cowboy placed a hand on her shoulder and spoke softly. "We've kept the promise. We built a life where work is part of joy, where love is the center, and where family grows stronger each day, and we've done it together." She smiled, feeling the truth in his words. "I couldn't have done it alone, and I never would have dreamed this life could exist if not for your guidance and patience. Every day I feel grateful for the choice I made. The ranch was more than just land and animals now. It was a home filled with laughter, love, and warmth. Their children grew strong and curious, learning the value of work, patience, and care. The life the cowboy had promised so long ago, of freedom from endless work, of family and of rest, was no longer a dream. It was a reality they lived every day, built step by step, heart by heart. As the years passed, their family grew and the ranch flourished. They celebrated birthdays, anniversaries, and small victories together. The Barefoot waitress often found herself marveling at the life she had created, a life full of meaning, joy, and love. The giant cowboy remained her partner, her guide, and her equal, sharing in every task, every laughter, and every quiet moment under the stars. One evening, as they watched the sunset together, she spoke softly. "I remember when you first promised me this life. I didn't know if I could believe it, but now I see it, I feel it, and I know it is real." He smiled, a quiet, content smile. "It was never just a promise. It was something we built together, and it will continue to grow, with each day, with each child, and with each shared moment." And so, the life they had dreamed of unfolded fully. The Barefoot waitress and the giant cowboy had created more than a home. They had created a legacy of love, trust, and hope. Their family thrived, the ranch flourished, and the promise of a life free from endless work, filled with laughter and children, was fulfilled in every way. Years later, as they looked out over the fields that had once been empty and uncertain, they knew that the journey had been worth every step. The life they had imagined, dreamed of, and worked for had become real, and it was more beautiful than either of them could have imagined. The promise made under the stars, that she would have a life filled with family, rest, and love, was not just kept. It had grown, flourished, and become the foundation of a life that would continue to inspire hope, courage, and trust for generations to come. The barefoot waitress smiled, her heart full, knowing that the giant cowboy had not only changed her life, but had helped her discover the strength, joy, and love that had always been waiting within her. And as the sun set over the ranch, painting the fields in gold, she realized that they had truly created a home of heart, work, laughter, and family that would endure forever.